The Mamamoo podcast is supported by Okidoki, the award-winning baby and kids online concept store aimed at bringing organic quality, sustainability, and style to your home. And Ideal Air Purifiers that can help to make breathing clean air a daily habit. Free from fine dust particles, bacteria, and allergens, you can use it at home, at the office, everywhere basically. Shit. Do you know what I was thinking? What do I speak, Greek or English? It's English. We're doing a Saturday show in English.
Amazing.
Thank you, Maria, for allowing me to do a Saturday show in English, because a lot of people have been saying, come on.
I know.
Come on. We want to hear as well what you go on about on the Saturday show. So thank you for that. And also I remembered that you were my first podcast when I opened the studio.
When you came back.
Amor.
No.
Gabes mo podarigo.
I did.
You did. So thank you for that. Anyway, so how are you?
I'm amazing. I'm actually really glad to be back in Nicosia.
Really?
No, I haven't been since the last podcast episode.
So that was roughly around Christmas.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And you got to have a little cheese pie. What did you eat?
Halloumodi.
Halloumodi.
I have a dairy intolerance, but I've decided to have one.
Fuck the dairy intolerance when you're in Old Nicosia and there's traditional pies being made by Dria Fanaria next to the studio. Do you know what I wanted to ask you? You're saying that you're happy to be back in Nicosia. Obviously, we're happy to have you. But you recently went to Mexico.
Yeah.
You bitch.
I did. Sorry, not sorry.
Please tell me what it was like.
Was
Was it what you thought it would be?
So it was my second time.
Oh, it was your second time.
Yeah, and there's going to be a third.
Of course there is.
So I am obsessed with Mexico. I'm obsessed with Mexican telenovelas because that's where I learned my Spanish. I'm obsessed with the Mexican slang. I'm obsessed with the cuisine, and I'm obsessed with the people. So it was brilliant. I mean, I don't know. I think you saw the stories at some point because I wasn't posting on my personal account. I was posting on my Greek island.
Yeah.
And at some point I saw, Eleni.
I did. I was
Eleni
like,
has
what?
clearly missed me.
Where is she? What's going on? I was avoiding them because I was stuck in the house with three kids.
Sorry.
While you fucked off to Mexico, drinking and dancing.
Yes. Oh my God, I salsa danced. That was so funny because we randomly ended up at this bar that they were dancing salsa. And I used to dance salsa for many years and I haven't danced since 2017. And I was like, oh my God, I want to dance. And then at some point, someone walks up to me and asks me to dance. And I was like, okay, that's random. And then after the fact, Haralambo said, I sort of pointed to him and said, come ask her to dance. So, which is great. Like I had a wingman.
We love Jaralambo.
We do. So, yeah, Mexico is brilliant. I was slightly disappointed to see that one of the areas that I'd visited before had become too touristic. So that was Tulum, which is supposed to be like the boho chic area. And I think I characterized it at some point that we came for boho chic, but we ended up getting boho yiftik. I don't know if that translates well into English, but it was a bit trashy. And they've overbuilt it. And it's kind of a jungle. So it was very disappointing to see that. But otherwise, I mean...
So where would you, if someone's listening now and thinking of taking a little trip to Mexico, which, I don't know, from Cyprus, what do you need? Like 4, 5, 6, 500 planes to get there?
No. So you can either go via Madrid or London. From Madrid and London, you've got direct flights every single day. I think there's 2 flights a day.
Okay. So you went from London.
We went from London direct.
And how long is the flight?
So it's 9 hours to get there and 11 coming back, or the other way around. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's about 9 to 11 hours.
Okay. Where would you recommend someone goes?
So 100%,
Top 3.
100% Mexico City.
Okay.
100%. And from Mexico City, you can do like short excursions. So you can fly in a hot air balloon over the pyramids in Teotihuacan.
Okay.
Which is it's a really magical experience. then within close proximity, you have like San Miguel de Allende, which we didn't visit this time, but I want to go next time. Or you can go to an area called Atlixco, where they have like this huge flower production. So it's a very interesting place to visit. Oaxaca, which is one of the culinary spots of the country, but also the artistic center of Latin America. So I ended up buying 2 paintings as well, because I'm such an art junkie.
Nice.
And then we also visited like the area which is in the Caribbean, which is Yucatan, like the peninsula of Yucatan.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'd go back, but I think it was a nice experience because you've got the pyramids of Chichen Itza there, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. The culinary experience is very interesting, very different to the rest of Mexico. But for me, Mexico is Mexico City.
Okay.
Mexico City is just, there's so much to do. It's such a vibrant city. The people, the food. For me, Mexico, one of the reasons to visit Mexico is the food and the people.
I'd go anywhere for food.
Same.
Anywhere.
I mean, if you were to ask how Alan was, he didn't even bother like recommending anything because I had this very long list
Of course you did.
of restaurants and street food. Like he was shocked. This one day we're literally coming back from the pyramids, but we've gone on the hot air balloon, and we're on the bus and they're taking us back to the area that we're staying in. And at some point I said to him, Caramba, I'm going to tell the driver that we need to get down now. And he's like, why, what happened? I said, there's street food on the street. So we ended up eating like at 11 a.m. quesadillas from Jenny on the corner of the street. And he was always asking me, where do you find this restaurant? I said to him, I actually don't know. And I'm going to start taking notes because I read so many blogs or I follow certain people that I know have the same food interests as me. And I'm just taking notes on my phone constantly, but I never write where I find them from.
Yeah.
But never disappoint. When it comes to food, I never disappoint.
Next question and last question about Mexico, and I think what a lot of people are probably thinking as well, when something sounds a bit foreign and something that we're not used to, is it safe?
So from Mexico City and south of Mexico City, yes. There are areas north of Mexico City, especially close to the border with the US, that are not recommended to be visited. And I always use 2 things as my guidance when I travel, because I travel, you know how much I travel. The UK government, I always check what their advice is, because they have like a specific website where they advise you for trips abroad. So you can go on and see what they're advising for Mexico, not just with respect to safety, but vaccines, everything. Like they'll give you like a guideline of what they think is appropriate for that specific country if you're traveling from the UK. But then I always do check the Mexican Tourism Board as well, and they're actually very honest. So, for example, in this trip, I wanted to visit the region of Guadalajara. I've been wanting to go for years. And it wasn't recommended on the UK Tourism Board that you shouldn't be going. On the UK government website that you shouldn't be going. But then on the Mexican Tourism Board, it said, we recommend that tourists do not visit Guadalajara unless it's essential, because there's a lot of, this is going to sound really awful, but there's a lot of like narco traffickers that actually live in Guadalajara, and they have a lot of vendettas between them, and there's been shootings, and in those shootings there have been like tourists caught in the middle. So the Mexican Tourism Board is very honest with which areas are safe, and they also have committed to keeping certain areas safe. So for example, in Yucatan, which is the region where Cancun, Tulum, Playa del Carmen and all of those areas are, there is constant police around because they're trying to keep the area safe. In Mexico City, they, like in all of the places that they are committed to bring tourism, they're committed to keeping them safe.
It reminds me a little bit of when we went to Jamaica I think it's about 15 years ago, and I really, really wanted to go to Kingston.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
They don't recommend.
People like just don't. There's just no point in risking it. So we sort of like stayed in a touristy area, but we didn't do the closed off, fenced off resort. We did go into the village, and, you know, it was a really run down hotel. There wasn't even a clock on the wall. But I still managed to get a bit of that cultural feeling without feeling I was in danger.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely recommend Mexico. I always say just be safe. Make sure that you check the destination you're going to. In my case, we're a bit more privileged because I speak the language.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was a really nice experience to be able, and they do. There was that extra level of safety because if anything, what like at some point one of our flights got cancelled, and the fact that I spoke Spanish sort of helped us navigate through that. So that does help. So start watching more, I don't know, Mexican telenovelas on.
Funny,
on
I had a
Netflix.
guest yesterday. This guy, his podcast will be coming out in a couple of weeks, and he was saying that he's become obsessed with Spanish TV shows on Netflix, and apparently that they're, they might not have the Hollywood budget, but the storylines
They're brilliant.
are brilliant,
And they're always inclusive. Especially the the production company Telemundo. It's quite cheesy production, some of them, but the storylines are excellent. But the inclusivity is always something that appeals to me. So one example is there's this series called La Casa de las Flores.
Did you recommend that to me? Someone recommended
I've definitely
that to me.
recommended it to you.
Yeah.
It's really it's first of all, it's very dark humor.
Oh,
But simultaneously, it's very inclusive, and it brings to light many social issues that many people are not aware of.
okay.
So, for example, at some point there's a part about conversion therapy, which until I watched it, I wasn't really that up to date
Of
and then
what it means.
Yeah, and then I started reading up on it. And you don't see many European series bringing such issues to light, and they always present it in such a normal way. Like, in another series I was watching, someone transitioning, or in La Casa de las Flores, there was someone he was bi, but he couldn't sort of say it. So he was engaged to a woman because that was what society wanted, but he also had someone on the side. And so there's a lot happening.
All right.
Which is really interesting to watch.
So we'll start looking into Spanish language TV shows on Netflix. All I've got is Netflix right now. I'm still trying to figure out ways to go, but this is Cyprus.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what are we talking about today, my love? Really like light subjects,
Definitely,
and
then
like there's
your everyday topic that
we're
you have.
definitely not going to say anything wrong today. So, since I have you here, and I do get a chance to do this in English, I wanted to touch on a few topics that I found quite interesting, and that maybe, we're not going to solve what this means today, and we're not going to arrive at any landmarks, but we are going to go into sexism. Mm-hmm. So what is sexism? And this sort of like came up for me after, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, when something happened with the president of our parliament here, mm-hmm. who is a woman, mm-hmm. A blonde, petite woman. I think it's important that we say that because appearance-wise, she's an easy target for some.
Mm-hmm.
So during, I think it was like an EU commission or talks or something, I can't remember what it was, I apologize. They were talking about the Cyprus problem, and the representative from Turkey sort of like, there was a debate going on, and he sort of like lashed out towards the female president of our parliament, saying something along the lines of, "You're too young. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you don't understand." And then he went into whatever it was that he was talking about on the topic. And our president reacted to this and called out his behavior as sexist. Mm-hmm. And she also said, I can't believe this is happening in this setting right now, and I expect everyone's support because this is not okay. And then the internet, as it always does, blew up, and there were two camps. There was the, yes, that was sexist, and the sorry, I don't see sexism here. And the funny thing about that was that there was no clear left and right wing opinion to it. There were leftists who were saying this isn't sexist behavior. And there were right-wing people who were saying, yes, actually, that was sexist behavior. And, you know, we started talking about it with Theognosia as well. And we are going to do one in Greek with this example as our touchstone. But I wanted to talk about it with you in English as well. So what is sexism? That's the one thing that we're going to talk about, how it shows up, some examples, the different types, because there are different types as well. Then we're going to go into my favorite one, which I went down a really dark rabbit hole yesterday. Trad wives. The trad wife. So trad wife is short for traditional wife. So this is sort of like a movement or a trend that's going on. I don't know. Really fucking interesting, I have to say.
And slightly disturbing.
Well, you know, for me,
that's my opinion,
anything that's disturbing is interesting. I mean, along the lines of, like, so no one's getting hurt. You know, that's where the boundary is. But for me, it is disturbing, but in an interesting way.
Yeah.
You know, I find it fascinating. It's just like I said it last time, conservatives and alt-rights fascinating.
Yeah.
And then, if we have time, I hope we do, we'll go into a little part of being single.
And above 40.
And over 40. I have no clue what is going on with you.
That's what I'm here for.
And I was thinking about it yesterday. I was thinking, single. I mean, you know, it's just a word that I never use and I never put myself in that position. And from what I get from friends who are single, the dating scene is fucked up, to say the least. It's
interesting, fascinating, as you
disturbing.
said. It's it can be at times extremely disturbing.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go into that as well. So let's start with sexism. Let's do it. Okay. Right, sexism. So,
should we give the definition?
Do that.
I actually wrote it down because I'm like, if someone asks you what is sexism, so the actual definition is prejudice or discrimination based on a person's sex or gender. That's the definition.
Okay.
So when you were talking about the example before...
So, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing this all the time and you hate it. I know it because I interrupt your thought. Does this apply to men as well? Can you...
It can. So based on the definition, it can impact anyone. However, historically, those that have been more impacted by sexism are women or people that belong to the LGBTQ plus community.
Okay.
These are the people that have been more impacted. Lately, I think the biggest form of sexism is towards trans people, for example. But men can be impacted by it, but historically, that's not what we've seen.
Yeah.
Historically, we're living the patriarchy, so men are there to be benefited. So no, this discrimination has not historically been seen towards, like, it's not something that we've been seeing happening to men, or men saying, I feel that I was discriminated on because of my gender. Well, you do see many men saying that now, for example, because of quotas that might exist. Yet they lack to understand the backstory of why a quota might be in place.
Okay.
And I've had quite a few people say to me recently, because of quotas, men are now being discriminated because it's not the best, well, for lack of a better word, but that's what the phrase says. It's not the best man for the job, right? It's it's the person that ticks the percentage box of the quota. But I had this conversation with someone the other day, and there is a backstory to quotas, and we've had this discussion before when I put it on one of my stories on Instagram, and you were like, you really had me thinking, because I said on the story, okay, tell me another way to get diversity within the workplace without quotas, and I'm all up for it. But research has shown that the moment you take them away, there is a tendency to revert back to the old model, which is the white cis man.
Okay.
So therefore, quotas are there until you are able to educate and change things at the younger ages, so that it organically sort of works its way up. So
which is what we're hoping that is happening now.
Yeah, which is what we're hoping for. Still a lot of work to be done even there, but until that's done, your only control is actually to have quotas in place.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about discrimination towards men, you will hear that some of them will say we're being discriminated because of quotas, and they're sort of lacking to understand the backstory, and also the fact that historically women have been marginalized and not been given those roles. So now we're trying to change, the status quo.
I think that's really important that we, when people either debate or, they do that backlash, well, now this is going on and men are being discriminated. I find it disappointing that they lack acknowledging the fact that history shows something completely different. And it's not just a case of, but now you do have rights, and now your husband can't rape you, and now you can open a bank account, and now you can leave the house and go and work or whatever. The problem is that when something is so ingrained in history and in society, and it's literally part of the tapestry.
Yeah. And exactly.
It's really, that is where you need to put your focus on and acknowledge that, okay, yes, this has happened. Therefore, from the moment that this group of people has always historically been oppressed.
Exactly. So and then you've touched on something which is the definition of one of the levels of sexism, which is institutional sexism, right? Because it's so ingrained everywhere that it's ingrained in the workplace, it's ingrained in the government, it's ingrained everywhere. So going back to your example that you started off with, and when you mentioned it to me when we spoke on the phone the other day, I've really been thinking about it.
You thought about it as well? Because I was going to ask you if you feel that you want to say, did you see sexism in that?
I'll tell you what my thoughts are. And I don't think my after I sat with it, my opinion didn't change from my initial reaction.
It didn't?
No. Although,
so what was your first opinion for people?
Although now I can sort of understand why I had that reaction. I said to you, I think it is sexism, but it's underlying sexism, so it's not easy to point it out. And although many people would say, yeah, but you could say that to a man as well. Yeah, but they didn't.
Would he though? I mean, that's where
we don't really see that happening. But what I would say is, I believe that there is a root of sexism there. However, you can't tackle it with the sexism card because he didn't mention anything about gender. He mentioned age.
Yeah.
So you playing the sexism card is really, you need to keep it factual. When it is like a clear sexism case, you need to keep it factual when you're responding without not pulling out the sexism card, but I always find that when I keep it more factual, I yield better results. So instead of saying, oh, that's sexist, now I find myself saying, okay, so why does age have anything to do with this? So what is the issue with the age? Like,
I also think that, I think that it's really important that, I mean, she was literally on the spot at that moment. You have to consider that as well.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. No, I mean, for anyone who's listening, you have to consider the fact that she literally had seconds to reply to something that obviously triggered her and I know that it would have triggered
100%.
me as well. And I've been in that position as well. Oh, he said me, cha, you're young, you don't know. If she had not said anything, I think, again, she would have been attacked.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong.
And I think the biggest issue is that we have never, at any point in time, been given the tools to know how to
Respond.
to these.
We
and not-
react.
we react, exactly. Whereas the fact that I now ask questions, like someone said to me a few weeks ago, oh my God, you're too woke. And I was like, what does woke mean for you? Like, and I learned that from Clementine Ford when she said, she calls it the spotlight method.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Oh, I
so
didn't
she's
catch
like,
that. Okay.
the moment you get like either a backlash or whatever, just turn the spotlight. What does that mean to you? So why was age an issue? Why are we bringing up age now? And that's the only way you can get them to think about what they've said.
Okay.
Or you get a sexist joke. I'm not sure.
But does that also give you time to respond as well?
That gives you time to process it and actually not just gather your thoughts, but regulate your emotions.
Which, is hard.
But we haven't been taught these things.
We haven't
Eleni.
been taught. We haven't. And the thing is that, we've reached the point right now where we are fully aware of when we're being attacked verbally. We've all been through that, whether it's been publicly, like in my case, or whether it's been on a date or whatever. We are aware of it. And the fact that we're aware that this has been happening to us our whole lives, and that we've reached the grand old age of 35 or 40 to sort of like, just, oh my God, really? This has been my life.
Yeah.
It's normal that you're going to react the way that you are going to react because you've been attacked your whole life.
And penalized.
And penalized and held back.
Yeah.
So, when you've got an animal that's been wounded nonstop and attacked and abused, at some point that animal is going to
fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that it is really important that we put into place what these terminologies mean. Sexism, internalized misogyny, which you've done a lot of work on, and the types. So the types, you've got the two.
Yeah, the two main ones.
The two main ones. There are actually 6 types, but those are you mentioned one of them, which is the institutional one. There's interpersonal one. There's internalized one. There's ambivalent. Mm-hmm. And then there are the 2 main ones, which you're going to talk about now, is hostile and benevolent. Benevolent sexism. That is something that I think I learned from the Man Enough podcast.
So I didn't know the term until you told me it.
No way.
No, because so do you remember I texted you one day and I'm like, oh my God, Eleni, we need to talk one day about subtle sexism. And you're like, benevolent sexism. And I'm like, what? Is that
There's a word for it.
There's a word. And I was like, and I said to you, oh my God, there's a word for it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the terminology is still very new.
Very.
And not something we're aware of. So just to break it down, the 2 main forms are hostile sexism and benevolent sexism, where hostile sexism is the negative evaluations and stereotypes, while benevolent sexism is sexism expressed in a positive manner. And it's also still very accepted by society as normal and
women do
polite.
it too.
Oh, they do hostile sexism as well. I mean, I think everyone's guilty of both forms of sexism. However, benevolent sexism is more
socially acceptable.
It's more socially accepted,
Yeah.
and it's considered polite. Like it's looked at in a positive manner. Therefore, it's not really understood that. It's not understood how impactful and how harmful it can be, but we do know that more negative impacts can come from hostile sexism because from research, it does seem that there is a positive correlation between hostile sexism and abuse.
Yeah.
So we know that there's a much bigger negative impact from hostile sexism. But it doesn't mean that the other one is not equally harmful.
Okay, I agree. So I did actually, when I was researching sexism yesterday, I went into some papers that were published on adolescence. Obviously, now I've got a little teenager lovely boy in my house. No, he is. I love him to bits. Anyway, that I just wanted to point out that the paper showed that there was more benevolent sexism amongst girls and more hostile sexism amongst boys, which is pretty self-explanatory and there's something that you would expect as well. Hostile sexism, what I've written down here, aims to preserve men's dominance over women by underlining men's power. So it is expressed in a resentful way towards women who violate traditional roles. It keeps women in a subordinate position and can be a precursor for sexual harassment and violence towards women. That's what you said now. It can lead.
Yeah, there seems to be a positive correlation. Why do I keep saying that word wrong?
That's one of those words.
Bloody hell, I'm a mathematician. That's like, there seems to be a positive correlation between the two. But I mean, I was reading this morning that there's also this perception that hostile sexism is used as a mechanism because mainly men that use this form of sexism believe that they're being attacked and that women hate men, and they're sort of they're using it as like this mechanism to protect themselves. I don't really know what
to control the situation, maybe to like keep it manageable. Basically.
But should we give some examples of what hostile sexism is?
Yeah, let's stick to hostile sexism, and then we'll move to the benevolent, which is a bit more. But yeah, examples would be great because then people can understand it a bit better.
So this website that I was looking at that puts them into certain categories of examples is sexist language, insults, threatening or aggressive comments, harassing or threatening someone for not adhering to the gender stereotypes, punishing people when they step out of line, and engaging in physical or sexual assault. So that's why there's the positive correlation, because it's like one of the examples of hostile sexism is actually assault.
Yeah. Also, before you move on with the example, I just want to say something else that I wrote here is that research shows that both hostile and benevolent, because when we talk about why should we care, sexist attitudes, whether they're hostile or benevolent, are actually grounded in traditional gender stereotypes, which is a huge issue now. And they play a key role in the reproduction of gender inequalities. So when we put a spotlight on sexism, we do so because literally it affects even like policies, laws. That is why it's super important to be able to pinpoint what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not just blatantly obvious, like what you just said now, abuse and harassment and all this. It's subtle as well. So these are really good examples, and then we'll move into the more subtle ones. Sorry.
Should we go on to, are we staying on hostile sexism?
Do you have more?
No, these are like the key ones that I had. I had more examples, to be honest, on the benevolent
Let me
sexism.
see because I found, I think along the lines of what you said are the impact that hostile sexism can have. You're manipulative, basically, you're deceitful, you're capable of using seduction to control the other person, needing to be kept in their place. So it's interesting how this will tie in with our next topic as well, because there's a lot of mention of tradition and gender and stereotypes and all that. And that is, I feel, the issue that I have with certain people from certain beliefs and values, that somehow they're completely unaware of the fact that insisting on maintaining some form of tradition, you're literally still controlling people.
Yeah, but there's this like,
Is that the objective, that we still want to be able to control? women and anyone who steps out of line?
I'm not even sure they understand that they want to have the control. Sometimes I don't even think they understand that it's an element of control.
Really?
Yeah, they believe that. So first of all, there's this belief, and we're going to touch on it when we touch on the next topic. There's this belief that the family model in the past was more robust, it was more happy, there were less divorce, but that's because they couldn't. Or there was they're sort of dismissing the factors of why there wasn't any divorce, or
okay. Let's hold because we're gonna.
So
I feel like we're gonna have fun with the next one, but let's stick. Okay, so let's stick to this right now. Benevolent sexism, which is, I think, as you said, you've been researching and doing this work all this time, and you had never even heard of it. So imagine. Yeah, a lot of people who are listening now going, like, what is benevolent sexism?
I used to refer to it as subtle sexism.
Yeah, because you always knew it was there. It was there. There's something. There.
Yeah.
And now there you go. You have a...
Like you're quite funny for a woman. You're quite a good driver for a woman. These are forms of like, your husband is so lucky, you're so pretty. Like,
let me ask you something. Just popped into my mind. To go with the President of Parliament, Anita, and ageism as well. What if someone said to me, you look good for a 40-year-old woman? Is that ageism and sexism?
So that
because I get that a lot, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. Are you being
me? They're like, really? You're 42? I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
You look so good. It's the genes.
It's also bloody privilege as well. I like to say, I can afford to buy lovely skincare products.
Exactly. Well, I can afford to work out. I can afford PT. All of this.
Exactly.
I think that when it comes to those type of comments, that it's more rooted in the stereotype that we need to look a certain way as women. So it is again it is again sexism because it's gender discrimination at the end of the day.
Yeah, but someone could say it's a compliment.
Exactly, but it comes down to these beauty standards that have been imposed on us. Because at the end of the day, if you don't look in a certain way, then you're not good enough to get a compliment, right?
Yeah.
If you have body hair, let's not go there. But do you get my point? Like, oh my God, or you don't pluck your eyebrows, or you don't do this, that, or the other. It comes down to the beauty standards, which again are rooted in the patriarchy and the control of women that have to look a certain way. So,
but also, have you ever thought of what a 40-year-old woman should look like?
She should look like
really,
however the fuck she wants,
really.
Right?
I mean, I know that people again mean well, and it is benevolent sexism.
Exactly.
But sometimes I really do wonder. So what do you think a 40-year-old woman looks like if you think that I look good for a 40-year-old? I mean, does that mean that against all odds, now being in the, sorry for the word, unfuckable...
Yeah, the unfuckable. You're above the... You've reached the threshold.
Yeah, according to Andrew Tate, I am not fuckable. It's just not happening. And because you do find me fuckable, then somehow I'm messing with your beauty standards, or...
It's really fucked up.
It really is.
It is really fucked up because at the end of the day, and you said that, you drive well for a woman. So how bad do you think that every single woman on this planet drives for you to think that, I drive well? Or, how ugly do you think in your mind is every single bloody woman that I am good enough for a 40-year-old?
Yeah.
It's just so unrealistic.
But it could I could also flip it, and I don't know if this is internalized misogyny or not, but growing up when we heard 40-year-olds, you'd think, oh my God, that's old.
Yes. However, a 40-year-old then did not have the access to health, to exercise and everything that we have today.
Okay, so you think it was more...
And the life expectancy was so much lower.
That's another thing as well.
Why do we live longer? Because we know how to take care of our health and our minds and everything, right?
And apparently that's a booming industry right now. The fact that we should live longer. and that we're going to need a lot of services and products that will start coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can live forever. I don't want to live forever. I don't. Anyway, benevolent sexism is socially more acceptable. Yes.
And it's sort of rooted in the fact that women are wonderful but weak. That it's still the same as the hostile, that women are the weaker gender.
The fairer sex.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they used to say?
Is that what they used to say?
The fairer sex, I think, yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Do you want to Google it?
Let's Google it.
I think that's what they used to say. Until you Google that, I'll just read out what I wrote here. Benevolent sexism is expressed by emphasizing men's role to protect and provide by putting them on a pedestal in a chivalrous way. Does fairer sex, is that what?
It does. It says the fair sex or the fairer sex means womankind or female humans. The expression came into use in the 1600s as fair maid or fair maiden.
Ooh, there you go. You got a bit of education, people. Okay, so yeah. So benevolent sexism, yeah, it's not just thinking that you're being kind and nice to women. You're also pushing men up.
Yeah.
And putting them in that provider and protector position,
Exactly.
which not all men want to do.
Yes. And not all women want.
And not all women want.
Yeah, so talking on behalf of a woman, for example, is an example of benevolent sexism. The patronizing behavior that you might have, or the mansplaining, or I mean, when was it when I was at this talk and this man, he wanted to talk to the presenter and he said, "Oh, pretty, please." And I'm like, oh my God. Yadi. Or the mansplaining drives me up the wall. And oh my God, I wanted to find it and I will find it. There was this decision tree. I think it was in one of the newspapers in the UK. They literally issued a decision tree. When am I mansplaining? And it's hilarious and tragic at the same time to follow the decision tree. Like, did she ask you for your opinion? No, you are mansplaining. Did she do this? No, you are mansplaining.
But you know what? I really feel that some people do need that.
Yes. I will put it in the show notes.
Please.
I will do my absolute best to find it.
But
so you can put it in
also,
the show notes.
you have time until, what day is it today? Wednesday? Friday when I start editing. Also, I feel that a lot of men have picked up on that word, mansplaining. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you use it, they sort of like go all defensive. Mm-hmm. And then it's like a really triggering word for them, I find.
Yeah, I think there's many triggering words.
But they have
them,
many.
but
Many words that trigger them.
It's the same with sexism. As soon as you use the word sexist or woke, those seem to be quite triggering for many men as well.
But you know, woke is normally used against us. It's sort of like this tool or this weapon that, you know, you're too woke. You're on the bad
it's used
side.
against you. Yeah. But as soon as they hear the word like woke, it's like, oh my God, I can't participate in the conversation. Oh, you're too woke for me.
I love that you changed the tone of your voice. Muy importante.
Muy importante.
Okay. All right. So do we have other examples of benevolent? I also wrote something else here. This form of sexism, benevolent sexism, is instigated through paternal, again, and traditional beliefs that perceive women as beautiful and pure. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're definitely the first one, but the second one, I don't know many women who are fucking pure, yet delicate and precious. Therefore in need of protection provided by men. The problem is that it has been shown that benevolent sexism encourages women to and this is where when I said policy and laws earlier, this is also another problem with sexism, is that it encourages women to prioritize relationships over pursuing educational or professional goals. and it undermines their perceptions of what they are competent.
And what they want.
But also what they can do. Yeah. I mean, literally, like, you have been told your whole life that you cannot change a car tire.
Yes, and that you're more tidy, and that you're nurturing, and that you're more intuitive, and that you are the one that should be the sole care, and you're better at washing the dishes, and you're better at putting the washing machine, like pressing the button for the washing machine. Do you remember that video that you posted the other day?
Michael Knowles, Daily Wire. It's like, yeah, he wants to fucking rule the world, but he doesn't know how to. And he's like,
and it was literally pressing a button, right?
And it's like, you're saying it.
Yeah.
You're saying that you are incompetent of learning how to do something for yourself.
Yeah.
How is that good?
One thing I want to note, though, is that benevolent sexism is also so deeply, it's homophobic, because it's so rooted and based on gender stereotypes and heteronormativity that there's no space for anyone else.
Yeah, misogyny and homophobia.
They always go hand in hand.
I'm coming to the really strong realization that they are like, there's twins.
I'm not sure if like they go exactly hand in hand, but
very similar
but one is very rarely there without the other. Very rarely. Like I stand to be corrected, but I don't think you'll find a misogynist that's not homophobic. Or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember the podcast that I had heard the last time that we did the episode when it said that, you know, the root of homophobia is from misogyny.
Yeah, because you hate the fact that
anything that
again
doesn't conform to gender
exactly, and again, it's the majority of homophobia is targeted towards men who do not abide by the traditional be a protector, be a provider, and inhabit these feminine traits. If you don't like the feminine traits, that's misogyny.
Yeah.
And the other thing, you mentioned Clem Ford earlier, something that she says a lot, and again, I'm starting to agree with her more and more, is that, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of men don't actually like women. They don't like us. I mean, seriously. And not all men. I'm saying that not even with a hint of sarcasm, because I know that it's not all men. But a lot of them literally do not like.
No, you wondered, like, they must hate women. Like, there's no other, like, in order for you to want to harm women, in order for you to not want to look at them as a human being.
Yes, thank you. Allow them the space
to be them.
To be them.
To be a human, not to be an object. Like that. I think that's where Clementine Ford probably bases. And of course, I mean, the depth of knowledge that woman has is just beyond my comprehension.
It is. I've learned a lot from her. I do understand that there are times and moments where she can like become extremely radical. And I think the first time that I discovered her was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, when she was on that leave your husband movement thing. And I really didn't like it. I was like, and that again, it was later on, I did some work on it and I realized what it was that I didn't like about that. I can listen to her now say leave your husband and not be triggered by it. But the depth and the wealth of knowledge that she has. If you want to know more about feminism and misogyny, and now she's working on a book about marriage as well, which is called I Don't. Fucking love it. She's gone into the history of marriage as well, and that one of her stories yesterday also helped me prepare for the next segment.
She really goes deep. But one thing I wanted to say on her, because a friend of mine, male, who listened to her, he said to me, all she does is bark, right? And I said, and it got me thinking. And then I went back to him and I said to him, okay, we also need to understand that we went to very privileged schools.
Okay.
In the UK and Cyprus, for me but specifically, he only went to school in the UK and Greece, but we went to very privileged schools, and we went to schools where you get to talk English like this, or you get to talk a good version of Greek, right? And I catch myself recently challenging when I hear someone that doesn't talk in the right way. Why does it like, you know, he says she's barking. Well, maybe she didn't go to a privileged school like you did, or maybe she doesn't have the ability. So it's ableism, right?
Okay.
So that's the first thing about Clementine, which some people always say, oh my God, she's always barking. No, that's the way she expresses herself. So why is there space for her not to be able to express herself the way that she does?
Exactly.
The second thing that I found fascinating is so many people will say to me, she's a man hater. Okay.
That's lazy.
Exactly.
It's lazy.
And ignorant.
Yeah.
However, the other day, a father sent in a question to her. I can't remember right now what the topic was. I'll have a look which one it was. And the way she responded with so much love, and she actually starts the episode and says, first of all, I am so grateful that a man sent in, a question, and that there is so much interest about this child's welfare, because it's not something I get often on my podcast. And please, if there's any men out there listening, please start sending in more questions.
Yeah.
And you realize within split seconds, she's nowhere near a man hater.
Yeah.
She hates misogyny. I hate misogyny. And I'm sure that I have been labelled many times as a man hater. I don't hate men.
I've never been labelled as a man hater. Never in my life.
Never, ever.
Never, ever. Do we have anything else on sexism, or should we move on?
There was one thing I wanted to say, that I was reading something yesterday, and it said that how do you change it? And one of the papers that I was reading said that, like, first of all, in order to change it, in order to confront it, you need to recognize that it exists. And it says men are less likely than women to notice unfair and sexist treatment directed towards women. When men do notice differential treatment, they are less likely to acknowledge the event as sexist. So,
they'll try to justify it as something else. Okay.
So, obviously, in order to tackle a problem, you first need to acknowledge that it exists. So one of, I think, the biggest issues that is happening, and there's a lot of educational campaigns happening, especially in the UK at the moment, of getting men to acknowledge sexism.
Okay.
Currently there's this campaign happening by the UK government called Enough. And it's the advertisements are brilliant. They're literally everywhere. And it's effectively showing that when they're showing examples of sexism, and they're showing that men in, like, for example, one guy is catcalling a woman, and the guy's friend will call him out on it. And he's like, enough. So it's called Enough. So they're trying to bring to the surface these examples so that men can acknowledge them and help combat the problem. Because if you ignore it, you're part of the problem.
I love that they're targeting men on this, because I feel that we've done the work with women, even though there's still a lot to be done. Obviously, women are more able to recognize sexism than men are. And I find it very interesting when I talk about it with my husband or with my son, who's 12 years old. And there might be like an example on a TV show or an advertisement, or just, we're walking along the street and something happens. And then when you use a few words to make them think and acknowledge the sexism, I love the look on their face. There's like,
it's like an aha moment.
It's like an aha moment. It's like, I didn't think of it that way. Or something very, you're saying now about solutions and ways that we can tackle it. I also find that something as simple as, would you say that to a man, is also a good and simple way to get people thinking.
Although many sometimes will get defensive and say, yeah, I will.
Fine.
Yeah.
But at least I've put that little seed.
You've planted the seed.
I've put that seed there, and then next time they're going to think, oh, would I say that to a man? Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe they'll not acknowledge it at that moment in front of you. But you've put the seed there.
You have. But one thing that, just before we close the topic, one thing I really liked about this specific campaign is they're not portraying like the little scenarios that they show in a way of trying to protect the woman that's being harassed, but trying to, as the observer, making the observer realize that you need to call things out.
Yeah.
And it's not to protect, but it's so that it stops.
Yeah.
Because to date, women are calling it out and it's not stopping. And you see the observers just observing and saying, well, they didn't harass me, therefore I'm just going to be quiet. I don't want to get involved. No, you have to get involved, because that's how the moment you get involved and you say, yo, mate, that's not okay. That's empathy. You're sort of building empathy, which is something that is so absent from society.
I know.
Because if you were able to feel how she felt, you'd call it out.
You really wouldn't like it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you really wouldn't like it. Okay, right. Let's move on.
Let's.
Trad wives. Was that my idea or was it your idea?
It was your idea.
Of course it was.
But I want to say that I actually got more than one message since you posted the story that we were going to be discussing this topic. I got a few messages that I had never heard of tradwives. I had to Google what tradwives is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're bringing it to the forefront.
We're bringing it to the surface. And to be honest, I knew that it existed, but I didn't know the extent or didn't know details or hadn't thought about it until I heard Clementine Ford talking about it on one of her episodes.
Or the fact that there's over 50,000 posts, hashtags on Instagram.
And God knows how many views on TikTok apparently.
Well, I don't have TikTok. Do you have TikTok?
No.
I don't have TikTok, so I don't talk about TikTok because I don't have it.
Yeah.
And because I find it a very scary place.
It's a very scary place.
Very, very, very scary. My mum has TikTok.
No way.
It's like, Mum, she listens a lot. She's obsessed with TikTok. Ever since that, my little TikTok video came out on that podcast, she's obsessed with it, and she'll just send TikToks nonstop in the group.
She needs to tell us about it then.
Oh my God. Yeah. Mum, go onto TikTok.
And hashtag
tradwives and tell us what it says on there, because what we've got here is based on Instagram and the internet. Okay, so tradwives. Where do we start? I'm gonna start with the common trait that I've noticed, and I stand to be corrected, as you said earlier, and please, if I'm wrong, point me in the right direction, but these, do I say these types of women? What do I say?
Women that choose to be, I don't know, the movement? I don't know.
I don't want to say these.
It's not a movement, yeah.
Women, but the woman who says she is a trad wife normally has two common traits, and those are conservatism and Christianity.
And there's more.
What's the other one?
White supremacist.
Very rarely are they black, even though I did say out of the 10 that I found yesterday, there was one black, but yeah, normally white.
Racism. Classism. Should I keep going?
Okay. So, is it, what does it, oh my God, I'm getting okay, so one of the main things that I have an issue with, because obviously I don't care if you want to dress up as a 50s housewife.
Should we say that though, that what a trad wife usually comes with?
It's sort of like that format.
Yeah, so it means traditional wife, and it's a woman that stays at home and doesn't work, and there is a tendency to want to dress with the I guess the clothing attire of the 50s.
Not just dress, they even speak.
Yeah, the hair, the way they dress, the way they do the hair, the way they talk, the way they stay home. They don't do anything that their husband won't let them do. They don't go out after dark. They ask for permission from their husband to do anything. They don't have male friends because it's not acceptable.
I didn't know that, actually. You told me that. No.
What else? They all enjoy cooking. They all wear an apron. Like, it's a very stereotype of of what a woman should be. And there is a belief amongst trad wives that feminists are the root of why women are no longer happy and why women are now stressed. Whereas true happiness comes from being submissive to your husband, who of course has chosen you, and the fact that you stay home and raise the children, and that is a woman's effectively, that is the root to a woman's happiness.
You know what? Listening to you now, and yesterday when I was doing my research, and that part of me that wants to understand, I came to one conclusion, and that is that the world is so fucked up that these women have literally decided to opt out as a safety net. I don't know what it is. And they've sort of like taken this is too much. There's too much information. I don't know where to go, what to do. I don't know what movements I should pick, if I should be left wing or right wing or whatever. And I just choose to stay home and not know about anything of this. But then you go online and they're fucking everywhere. And they're making posts and they're writing blogs.
And they're trying to convince other women that this is the purpose
and they're
of
doing
life.
Videos. Yeah. So if you genuinely believe that the world is an ugly, ugly place and you want no part of it, then you shouldn't be fucking making videos.
It's a double standard, isn't it? It's such a double standard.
You shouldn't be making bloody videos.
The entire concept is a double standard.
So how to be a rebellious woman in 2023 according to a trad wife?
I don't even want to hear this.
Get married. Have lots of babies. Well, I've done that, so I'm so rebellious.
You are.
Cook and clean. Shave your body hair. Be submissive to your husband. Dress modestly and feminine. Love your country. That's another thing that we forgot to put down. Patriotism as well.
The
nationalism, yeah. Love your country. Be pro-life. And homeschool your children.
Yeah, because I mean, at school, they're going to learn about pronouns. God forbid.
And they're going to have drag queen shows. So, yeah.
Immortal.
So, and the other thing that I wanted to say is that, interestingly enough, by the way, I also found some content in French and German as well. Yeah, so this isn't just an American thing. Other posts that include, we've got one here that was it? Oh, sorry, I thought it was about OnlyFans. What was it? I've lost it now.
Is there a Trad Wives OnlyFans account?
Yeah, but you only have one fan.
Oh my God.
Hello, you only have one fan. No, there was Love to Be Feminine is an account on Instagram. There's a post called Tips to Look After Your Husband. And there's also one, Tips on How to Look After Your Wife.
Okay.
And I wanted to discuss with you the ones, and by the way, it says underneath, Tips to Look After Your Wife, extract from 1950 dating guide.
I don't know.
Provide for your wife and family. Have a good job that provides health benefits and enough income to keep your family comfortable. I agree. Do you agree? Can everyone do that?
No, but question, what happens if, I don't know, something happens and for X amount of time or for the inevitable future, you cannot work. What happens? What's going to happen?
Thank you. Next one.
Yeah.
Make your wife feel appreciated.
Yeah, and how do you do that?
When you come home to a clean house and a hot meal, be sure to thank your wife for providing these things. Surprising her with flowers or a small gift will take you far. If I slaved away...
Well, they're £55 in London right now, so I don't know if you can
Cuidado. You can't fucking buy yourself flowers, can you? Unless you're Miley Cyrus. If I slaved away in the kitchen and the house all day and he came home and brought me fucking flowers, am I being irrational?
So it's interesting that the specific how to keep your wife happy checklist has been taken from the 1950s.
Oh, yeah, it's a dating guide.
Yeah, so my question to these people would be, so society has evolved, but clearly not in their head, because the evolution of society clearly is not appropriate. That's probably the root of all evil. But if society has evolved, we as people have evolved. I mean, there was a research in Europe, and I think 94% of Europeans believe and want gender equality.
Okay.
Right? So 94% of people want gender equality, yet you still want to be stuck in the 50s. That to me is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You don't even want to evolve yourself or your dating advice. And this perfectly goes into the next subject that we're going to touch on, which is that many men have not evolved, unfortunately, because they are stuck. I don't know many or practically probably any of these men, and it's stuff that we see mainly on the internet. I'm sure there are around us, we're just not aware of it. They want this traditional, nuclear family.
Yeah.
But society has evolved, and you still want to go back to the 50s.
Do you want to hear on tips on how to look after your husband? Not really, and Namobidora. But this is an extract from 1950s home economics book.
Again, 1950s.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Again, 1950. Have dinner ready for him when he gets home. Mm-hmm. Prep the night before if needed, and cook him a delicious meal. This is a way to let him know that you are thinking of him and care about his needs. Having dinner ready when he gets home is always a warm welcome. Next, prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest and to touch up your hair and makeup so you're refreshed when he walks through the door. I can see smoke coming out of your... Clear away clutter. Make one last trip through the house and pick up any clutter. Make sure to also do a quick sweep and dusting so he can arrive to a restful haven. Prepare the children. Take a few minutes to wash their hands and their faces, change their clothes and brush their hair if necessary. Minimize all noise. Encourage your children to be calm and quiet. Put away the vacuum and eliminate the noise of the washer and dryer. Make him comfortable. I swear there's only two more. Encourage him to rest and relax. Bring him a beverage he enjoys. Offer to remove his shoes. And always speak in a calm and pleasant voice. I managed to say it without laughing. But you're not laughing.
My question is where... Okay, so guidelines are great, but what about the practice of those guidelines, right? So does this woman not have emotions? Does she not have needs? Does she not have an opinion?
They don't matter.
And does she not want to discuss with her husband? This is literally pulling out the soul from that person and turning her into a robot.
Okay, so submit. It's almost like Stepford Wives.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh my God, when did it come out?
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, was it
and
early 2000s?
Matthew Broderick. I can't remember. Yeah, I think so.
Was it early 2000s?
What a shocking movie. Anyway, so one of the words that I wanted to stand on was submissive and subservient. Okay, so a lot of these women are saying, they're using this word. What does that mean? It literally means, and this is a dictionary definition, ready to conform to the authority or the will of others. You are prepared to, what's that word? I don't know. Prepared to obey others unquestioningly. Yeah. And the other part that it really knocks sense into this whole thing is that anyone who is submissive and subservient is less important.
Yes, yeah.
You are less important. You are serving a means to an end.
Yeah.
You are used.
You are effectively giving up your entire identity, your entire being, and you will effectively serve. So it's so rooted in, it goes hand in hand and is rooted in misogyny. The woman becomes the object that obeys her husband. You do anything that person says. You're not entitled to be a human being with emotions. And it would be super interesting for you to have this conversation with someone who has studied psychology. Right? Because
it's a good one, yeah.
What do you learn in therapy? How to become a being, like how to regulate your emotions, understand your emotions, to express your truth, to be true to yourself, to your values, all of these things. And yet here you're being told, put all of that to the side. Just make sure the house is clean. Make sure your hair is brushed. Your makeup is on. Take 15 minutes to rest so you look rest, because God forbid your husband sees you tired. What is that?
You know, now that you've just said this from a psychological point of view as well, I'm again trying to justify this madness, but maybe they don't want to feel human. Maybe they don't want to feel the discomfort.
Why do you feel the need to convince others to do, if that's what you want to do, fine. Why do you feel the need to convince others? Why do you feel the need to have a public platform then to amplify your voice?
Because you're pushing an agenda, and you're pushing an agenda.
So you do think you're human. So again, it's a double standard. My biggest question is, if you were not, if anything goes wrong, I don't know, your husband passes away or whatever, where does that leave you?
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you look for the next person to become submissive to? And I think the thing that bothers me the most, and Clementine Ford has said that in the past, and it's probably going to be in her book about marriage. I mean, if we were to think back, women married for financial security because they weren't allowed to be financially independent, and they could only obtain that through marriage.
I did a bit of research yesterday, and I actually went back to where the whole institution of marriage began. And I think a lot of people know this, but and it's a book, I think, again, it was recommended by Clem Ford. I'll put it in the show notes because I just literally just read the notes, didn't go into it. So for thousands of years, love had nothing to do with marriage.
It was a contract.
It was a business transaction.
Yeah, it was a transaction.
Actually, the word love in medieval Europe was something that was reserved for God, kin, or neighbors. In India, it was considered dangerous due to the fact that it could bring on irrational behavior.
Okay.
So if you fall in love with the wrong person, you could fuck up the business transaction or whatever between families. So why did they create it? Ancestors, hunters, gatherers were nomadic creatures. During their travels, they would bump into other groups. Fights would break out. So they figured one way to make peace was to marry one member of the group to the other member of the group. Interestingly enough, the old Anglo-Saxon word for wife meant peace weaver.
Oh.
Marrying a member of two members of two groups meant that you were peacemaking.
Right.
That's what it was. And then obviously it took on another form and it became an economic and political power when you bring in the in-laws, which is something that, we use to joke about nowadays. But back then it was muy importante because you were growing your families and it meant more people to trade with. It meant more family ties and it meant you were more likely to prosper economically. And then, it goes into how it was then used to formalize peace treaties and military alliances. And somewhere said, there was a quote in the book saying, for centuries, marriage did much of the work that markets and governments do today.
Yeah, exactly. Which are financial services.
Yeah.
You were just building synergies, right? Or you were like merging two companies or this, that and the other.
That's what it was. And then apparently the
two governments like doing an allyship.
Yeah,
for
but
peacemaking.
Would that work now? Like imagine if I don't know, like a Turkish bride was to take like a Greek Cypriot groom and then all of a sudden there would be peace.
Yeah.
Like who the fuck thinks?
I don't know.
That way. Anyway, yeah, and the whole thing changed and love came into the equation with the French Revolution and the American Declaration of Independence. Mm-hmm. That legitimized the idea of people actually choosing who they want to spend their lives with. And obviously wage labor came into it as well. So you weren't dependent on inheritance and family money. So there is a lot behind the institution of marriage and why a lot of people like Clementine Ford are saying now that it's a trap. Yeah. It can be considered a trap.
Yeah, but at no point through the history of marriage do I hear what the trad wives are selling us. And I mean, we said it before we started recording that you were fascinated by the fact that it only lasted what they're trying to push us into, not trying to push us into, but what they're saying that is the ultimate definition of happiness.
The idea that they're romanticizing only lasted
15 years.
15 years.
And at a point in time where the economy was booming and a point in time where a one wage family could exist. Mm-hmm. And at a time where, I don't know, they seem to be completely ignoring other factors.
The economic fact.
And also romanticizing the era where women did not have rights, could not divorce, could not leave abusive relationships, they're romanticizing something that many women have fought for over the years in order to not be, to not be raped in marriage, because it was like a marital right of the, I don't remember what it was called.
It was your duty as a wife to be available to your husband
whenever and however he wanted.
Yeah. What's interesting about that I think we've been fed a lot of the 1950s romanticizing that idea through movies and pop culture. Yeah. But in fact, take out those 10, 15 years, that decade, and women have always worked. They have always worked.
And but even those 15 years, it was a very small population of women that didn't work.
Exactly. And also the fact that and this goes against the debate of the trad wife, when women came out into the workforce, that meant that men could start working later in life. They didn't have to start working from the age of 13, 14, 15. I mean, our dads still talk about the fact that they left their homes when they were 13. I mean, my father-in-law tells me the story all the time. I left when I was 13. It's like my son in a year's time, leaving the house and going to the city to work, to make money. When women came out into the workforce labor, they allowed men to start working later in life and retire earlier.
Yeah.
So in fact, if you take it to the whole trad wives, we love our men and we want to serve our men and all that, do you acknowledge how much
More
you're putting on their shoulders?
Yeah.
How much responsibility
Yeah, the responsibility.
you are putting on their shoulders. And as a mother of boys, I would not want that to be something that my sons carry around as if I have to provide and protect. I have to provide and protect every single day of my life and whatever I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
in fact,
it's
us feminists, we love men more.
Yeah, we do, because you're dehumanizing both people in that relationship, right?
Yeah.
You're also dehumanizing that man who, on the one side, you are there to be submissive to do whatever your husband wants. And your husband, on the other hand, is there to work to provide. I mean, it just sounds so stressful.
Of course it does. Because it is.
Yeah, it is.
It is stressful. Anyway.
And plus, where is the real human connection here?
The intimacy.
Where is the intimacy? Where is the real connection here?
Thank you. Thank you. Where is the I acknowledge you, I see you,
Yeah,
I hear you.
Yeah. I respect you.
Yeah.
I see you for who you are.
Yeah. Okay, we're 1 hour and 20 minutes in.
Oh my God.
I know you're shocked. Shall we leave the last one and moving to our recommendations? Because you said you have quite a few and I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, 100%.
And then let's maybe do a bit of more research on the whole dating thing.
Yeah.
Go on a few more dates, Maria, so you can do some research in the field and then come back to me.
We should do an episode on, do you know what we should do? We should actually do an episode on dating nightmares, like the funny stories.
Ooh.
The funny but tragic stories.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, that would be funny. I know I've actually got a group on WhatsApp with two friends of mine called D Diaries. And it's my favorite chat group because we're all single and the shit that goes on that group is just beyond comprehension.
Okay, right.
So maybe we should do an episode on that. But
we will.
Recommendations?
I like that. Yes, let's do it.
So I know you said that you don't want many books, or you said try to keep it beyond books and movies.
I said movies and TV shows because I feel that we've done a lot of recommending, but no, books,
I am going to recommend a very important book, given that we're talking about sexism, Laura Bates. I mean, you cannot, and if there's someone that's listening that does not know who Laura Bates is, please go and Google her. She is the queen
of misogyny.
Yeah.
Of explaining misogyny. I finished For the Love of Men, which is a recommendation that I was going to make, and I've started her Misogynation. And I
haven't read that.
Laura Bates is.
No, I haven't read that. I've read Everyday Sexism.
Oh, Misogynation. I took it home.
Yeah.
It's not here.
Her new one, though, I think is a very interesting
You met her.
I did. Not sorry. So I went to this talk in London, which was, I think it's called the Feminist Book Society. So effectively, it's effectively presenting female authors, which historically have not been given the platform to talk about their work. And
it is Misogynation, the true scale of sexism.
I've not read it. I've read Everyday Sexism, which is
one of her first when I finish. Okay.
But anyway, she was one of it was effectively a talk and a gathering and it was a book club as well. So they were selling all of these books, and many of the authors of the books that were being sold, all female authors, all trying to make, trying to challenge something, challenge our conditioning. And Laura Bates was there to talk. She was one of the many that were there to talk, and she presented one of her newest books, which is called Fix the System, Not the Women. Oh. And I think that's fascinating because there's always a tendency when something happens, I don't know, especially in the UK, so and so, like this woman, one woman was murdered from like it was by her husband. Someone else was attacked by the police. This like there's been multiple cases, and shame on me, I should actually be saying names. But what has happened is that they're giving women whistles instead of trying to get to the root. So Laura talks a lot about very feasible ways of how to fix the system and not the women.
She's actually giving solutions.
Oh yeah,
then,
100%. And she has got it. And especially now there was a report that came out about the Metropolitan Police showing that it's institutionally
same
sexist.
applies here.
And she actually trained the oh god, what are they called? The police that are on not the police. The
TFL,
groups. The TFL.
Oh.
There's like they're not actually police, but they're sort of like TFL security or what guards. I'm like the name is literally slipping my mind right now.
Okay.
And ever since she did that, the cases of the report of abuse went down, God, by I don't know how much percent. Yeah, so she's giving practical solutions on how to fix the system.
So Laura Bates, guys, what's the book? Is it out? Or is
yeah, it's out. It's out.
It's out.
Yeah, it's called Fix the System, Not the Women.
Okay, all right.
Then a second one, which I put down for anyone that is dating, but also does touch on misogyny, but touches on modern misogyny, which is very evident in the dating world and especially the online dating world.
Is that Lala?
No, no. Although hers is quite good as well, but oh my god, a bit disturbing at times. Tinder Translator,
Aileen.
Aileen. Is it Aileen or Aileen? I'm not sure. Aileen Barrat.
Okay.
Barrat.
Yeah.
Who wrote an A to Z of modern misogyny. It's very funny.
Okay.
It's a very funny book.
She's funny though.
She's extremely funny, but it's also it's tragic at times because you're like, yeah, the bar is that low.
God.
The bar is that low.
Okay.
So those are my books.
Okay.
But then my other recommendations are therapy. Therapy. More people need to be in therapy. And there is this new app which is affordable therapy for all. I think it's called Self-Help.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Yes.
Number 2, something that I do, I've got it in my bag. The 5-Minute Journal. Have you heard of it?
No.
So it's a book. I know that you journal a lot,
I
right?
do.
Okay. Not everyone, like I can't journal. I tried it for a few months and...
but it's not really journaling. It's just like... Scribbling, but also I've got a thought and I need to get it out.
Yeah.
So it might not literally be like a journal, but it's like words just coming out on the page. They're out of me.
So
I use it as a catharsis of a
So there's
sort.
this... Do you do it first thing in the morning?
No, I do it last thing at night before I go to bed.
So there's this author, what's her name? She wrote The Artist's Way. She wrote the book called The Artist's Way, and she talks about this thing called morning pages. So she said the first thing you do when you wake up, write on 3 pages back and forth, but 3 total pages. So 1.5 A4 pages. Yeah. She's like, just literally spit out whatever comes to it. Like, don't think, just write.
Yeah.
And I did it for a few months, but I really couldn't get into it.
Okay.
And I needed something to put, like, to help me ground myself there. That was Eleni killing a fly.
It wasn't a fly.
What was it?
It's a fruit fly.
It's a fruit fly. No fruit in here, but anyway. Yeah, so I wanted something to help me ground in the morning. I do meditation every morning, but I needed something more. So I bought this book, which was recommended to me by a friend, called The 5-Minute Journal. Okay. And effectively let's have a look.
Are you using it there? Is it working?
I use it every single day.
Oh, so it looks lovely.
It's beautiful. So every day there's like a quote at the top, and then it says, I'm grateful for, and you write literally 3 things.
I've heard of that. Doing that in the morning, waking up and focusing on 3 things you're grateful for. And it could be anything.
Anything.
Like, I'm grateful for my cup of coffee.
Anything. I wrote on the 27th of April, I wrote, I'm grateful for my friends and their critical thinking. Like literally simple things like that.
There you go.
Then you write 3 things. What would make today great? And then you write a daily affirmation.
Okay.
And then before you go to bed, you write 3 highlights of the day, and what did I learn
Ah,
today.
so there is a nighttime one as
Yeah.
well.
But it's literally in total 5 minutes.
Okay. I love that.
And it
The 5-minute journal.
the 5-minute
Okay.
journal.
I'll put that in the show notes as well.
And the last one, something that I got into recently and has changed my life. Thank you, George. Running. And I used this application called Couch to 5K.
Did you see my eye roll?
I did. I'm still going though. I might convince someone. I've always hated running.
I can't run because I feel my boobs are a problem.
I know. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. Like, you tell me to run, I'd be like, ain't happening.
I walk really fast.
Yeah, I say that I'll walk for 3 hours. And I used to say that. So for 2 years, a friend of mine has been breathing down my throat. He's like, you need to start running. You need to you need to start running. That's all he used to say to me. You need to start running, especially with your traveling.
Yeah.
You need to start running because you're going to be away for 2 weeks. You know, it's going to help you because you love working out. Because for me, my exercise is what keeps me sane.
It's funny. Remember what I said to you in the morning when we spoke?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's
I just finished my Pilates class. I do Pilates 3 times a week.
right.
And there are days when I really don't want to do it. Like, in every bone in my body is saying, you can find an excuse to get out of this.
Yes.
Right? And I'm doing it, and I'm realizing that my left arm is completely weak, and I'm all this self-talk going on. I have never, though, left a Pilates class, or I've never finished a walk and feel angry or sad or disappointed or anything. And that is what I focus on. And that is the reason, I do exercise for my ass as well and my thighs, because
it's not for your mental health.
Obviously I'm stuck in that whole beauty and body standards that we all are as well, and I'm trying to get out of it, but I cannot ignore the mental impact that it has. And the fact that whenever I do it, there are no negative, and I put that into quotation marks, feelings. I feel good.
Yeah, same. Like, for me, the first minute, so this application called Couch to 5K, you effectively choose someone to be, you need your headphones in your phone, because someone will talk you through it. So you do, it's 3 runs a week, and it gets you literally from running from 60 seconds, and the last run you will be running for 35 continuous minutes. No, I didn't think I could do it.
I will.
But even today,
you did
will run I didn't go today, I went yesterday, but I will run the first 10 minutes of the run. I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? But then I have never, as you said, left a run and not felt amazing.
I know.
Not felt amazing.
And that's what you need to focus on. And that, when you think about what am I going to get out of it, that is what you're going to get out of it. Okay, so I have 2 recommendations. They are, one of them is a podcast. The other is, I think it's a video on YouTube. I don't know if it's in the podcast format. I don't think so. So one is actually, it's from Man Enough. And it's a really different kind of episode that came out, I think, on May 1st. And it's called Beyond the Echo Chamber. And it is cultivating inclusive, resilient, and transformative safe spaces. And I love it because echo chambers is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And I've always been trying to find someone who can explain it to me without sounding either racist or homophobic or sexist in any way. And the Man Enough podcast is something I think that we all can agree on is a good place to get information.
Definitely.
Especially when it comes to men and women. But this one was really nice. It's just Jamie, Liz, Justin isn't there right now because I think he's writing a book, and Christopher Rivas. And they go into how to disagree healthily. They go into safe spaces, what it means, and all this. It's lovely. I heard it this morning. It's amazing. The other one that I wanted to recommend is a YouTube video which I think you mentioned the trans debate, put that into quotation marks. I went down a horrible hole a couple of weeks ago, alt-right, conservative Christian talks and podcasts and videos on J.K. Rowling and all that. And then a week later, ContraPoint, who is a trans woman and does amazing work. Her content is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's 2 hours of visual goodness as well. It's not just her debunking certain things. So it's called The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling, which is the exact same title that the podcast had, which I sent to you and you were like,
I can't listen
to that. I gave it a chance. I listened all the way through. I was just disappointed by the end of it. That wasn't both sides. It just wasn't. And then ContraPoints comes out with this beautiful video that is 2 hours long. It's got 2.9 million views and it's only been 2 weeks.
Wow.
If you find yourself not able to stick to a side on the whole trans debate, you need to listen to ContraPoints. You need to find her and you need to do some research on that. And also I wanted to say, as we're mentioning this, that it's going to be in Greek, but I have managed to find a trans woman and a trans man in Cyprus that are willing to come on the podcast and talk to me.
I'm really looking forward to
about their experiences. Again, it's going to be in Greek. It's very important that it's in Greek. We could have done it in English as well, but I feel that it needs to come out in Greek. And funnily enough, this is the first time that trans people will be interviewed on a podcast in Cyprus, which is just ridiculous. But I'm super happy to be doing it. And I'm so thankful to Eleni and Alex, who will be coming next week on the podcast. So stay tuned.
I'm so happy that you're going to be the one to bring it to...
I am.
To the light. The first interview, that it's going to be you that's going to do it.
I feel that I've done enough work to be able to handle this and bring out and shed a spotlight on these people's experiences. Enough listening to...
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that many people will take a position and I always say to them, have you ever spoken to a trans
Have you ever, almost?
Have you ever spoken to a trans
Exactly.
Have you ever attempted to look up something?
Yeah.
Or listen to someone's experience?
There's so much fear-mongering, so much. And then the whole, what is a woman?
Oh, yeah.
My God. And you know, let's end with Clem Ford, who said it brilliantly. I'll tell you what a woman is. She said, a woman is someone who is afraid of men. That's it. If I go into a space and it's just men there, you can bet your whatever you want that I'm a woman. And the same goes for a trans woman. Yeah. She walks into a space where it's all heterosexual men. She will be afraid. So you want to know what a woman is? That's what it is.
That's very true.
Thank you, Arabimo.
You're welcome, Aristo. Thanks so much.
Did you enjoy that?
We did really well in English, didn't we?
We did.
Oh, wow.
I think I had a lot to let out in English as well. So thank you for allowing me to do this.
It was lovely being here again.
Well, I think like every time you come back,
I'll be here.
You'll be here.
I'll try. I will try.
You'll try.
I do love being in Nicosia. My God, it reminds me of my prior life living here. Too long ago.
So there you go. You have to come back.
I will.
Thank you, my